Snow fell steadily outside the wooden wildlife center nestled deep within the Yellowstone wilderness. Inside, the dim yellow light of the birthing bay flickered as Dr. Emily Rivers pulled on her gloves, her breath fogging up the inside of her surgical mask. A storm was gathering, its pressure low and heavy, matching the anxiety swirling in her chest. But the storm outside wasn't her concern tonight. Tonight, she was focused entirely on Aurora. The massive female grizzly had been in the center's care for 2 years now, found wounded and starving after being struck by poachers' traps near a restricted logging zone. She was more ghost than bear when Emily first saw her. It had taken months to restore her strength, and even longer to build trust, but they had built it. Slowly, quietly, with patience. Emily had learned Aurora's rhythms, her moods, her ways of speaking without words. She was more than a patient. She was family. Now she was in labor. "She's entering final contractions," said Marcus, Emily's assistant, scanning the live vitals. His voice trembled just slightly. "Heart rate's elevated but steady." Emily nodded, her eyes never leaving the enclosure. The interior space was large but enclosed with bulletproof glass. Aurora paced slowly, grumbling low in her chest, her massive form shifting in discomfort. She circled her nesting area, thick with straw, pine bedding, and soft pads, before collapsing with a long, guttural groan. Bear births were rare enough in captivity. But this one was different. Aurora had grown significantly larger than most expecting mothers. Even factoring in her diet and genetic size, she seemed to carry more weight than normal. "She's going to have at least 3, Emily said. "Maybe 4. Marcus looked stunned. 4. That's unprecedented. She finished for him. Suddenly, Aurora let out a sharp snarl that echoed through the bay. Her breathing quickened. Her body tensed. Emily leaned forward. "It's starting." The first cub came quickly, a slick, tiny bundle no bigger than a loaf of bread. It whimpered, blind and wet, struggling toward warmth. Aurora gently nudged it with her nose, beginning the cleaning process. The second cub followed within minutes, then a third, each healthy, each pulled close by their mother's enormous paw. Marcus was already documenting. 3 viable, all responsive, normal vitals. Then Aurora groaned again. A 4th cub arrived. Then, unbelievably, a 5th. Emily gasped. 5 cubs, that's nearly unheard of. Marcus stepped back from the monitor. "Emily, what if—" Before he could finish, Aurora gave one final heave. Her body tensed again, more violently than before. She let out a sharp, distressed growl. The cubs at her belly squirmed but didn't make a sound. Emily felt her stomach drop. Something was wrong. "She's still pushing," Marcus said, confused. "There's another?" Emily was already moving toward the emergency access. Inside the enclosure, Aurora stood partially upright, a deeply unnatural posture for a bear in active labor. Her back arched. She gave a deep, rumbling sound that wasn't pain. It was fear. Emily hit the override. The sliding gate hissed open. She moved in slowly, her voice low and calm. "Aurora, it's okay. I'm here." The grizzly turned her head slightly, meeting Emily's eyes with surprising focus. She didn't growl, didn't resist. She moved back just enough. Lying behind her was something else. It was larger than the others, covered in dark, matted fur, completely still. Emily rushed to its side. Her fingers hovered. Then she touched the tiny form. Warm. She turned it gently. Immediately she knew something was wrong. The body structure? Wrong. The skull longer. The paws? Too wide. And its hind legs were too short. It wasn't just a bigger cub. It was a different shape entirely. Marcus was behind her, staring. "Is it dead?" Emily shook her head. "It's breathing." Suddenly, the newborn twitched. Aurora moved forward. She didn't nuzzle it like the others. She simply sat beside it, watching. Protective. Silent. Emily wrapped it in a heated blanket and carried it to the exam station. The fur was darker than any grizzly she'd seen, almost black with a bluish hue under the lights. She placed the stethoscope on its tiny chest. Steady heartbeat. But fast. Too fast. She turned on the portable ultrasound and ran it over the body. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "What is it?" Emily stared at the screen. "Something I've never seen." Then the newborn opened its eyes. Pale blue. Too pale. And too clear. Emily blinked. It was staring at her. Not past her. At her. Newborns didn't make eye contact like that. They didn't focus. They didn't recognize. The cub let out a sound. A low, smooth tone. Not a growl, not a cry. A note. A perfect, haunting note. Emily stumbled back. Marcus caught her. And then she said it. Emily stumbled back, heart pounding. The creature, because she could no longer call it just a cub, stared at her with pale, icy blue eyes that cut through the haze of steam rising from its damp fur. It didn't cry. It didn't move like the others. It simply watched. Marcus had frozen in place beside her, holding a towel and heating pad. "Emily, is it alive?" She couldn't speak right away. Her eyes scanned the tiny frame. Its chest rose and fell slowly. Its pulse was there, strong but irregular. The paws were too wide, the hind legs too short. The skull, elongated, almost canine. Nothing about it matched what she knew about bear anatomy. And Emily knew bears. She had spent her career studying, healing, and living beside them. "I don't know what it is," she said finally, "but it's not a normal bear." Marcus moved forward to offer the heating pad, but Emily stopped him. "Wait." The creature blinked. Then, with effort, it lifted a front limb and placed it on Emily's wrist. Marcus gasped. "That's not instinct, that's conscious." Emily knelt, ignoring the cold seeping through her scrubs. Her breath fogged between them as she gently scooped the newborn into a sterile blanket. It was warm, too warm. The other cubs were still huddled against Aurora's belly, squirming and squeaking. But this one hadn't made a sound, until now. As she laid it gently on the exam table and turned on the monitor, the creature released a low, vibrating hum. It wasn't animalistic, it was harmonic. The kind of sound that didn't just register in the ears, it resonated in the bones. Emily stared at the screen. Heart rate accelerated. Breathing, shallow but rhythmic. Internal temperature, elevated but stable. Then she saw the spinal scan. "Marcus, the vertebrae. Look." The spine curved upward unnaturally, almost like a serpent's, with 3 additional bones near the base that didn't belong. Emily ran the diagnostic tool again. Same result. She pulled up the blood panel. The white blood cell count was off the charts. Something in the DNA was creating hyperactive immune responses, but the system wasn't rejecting it. It was thriving. "Prepare the DNA sequencer," she ordered. Marcus nodded and rushed to set up the lab terminal. Emily took a swab from the creature's tongue and placed it into the analyzer. The screen began processing. She turned back toward the enclosure. Aurora hadn't moved. Her eyes were on Emily, intense yet calm. "You knew," Emily whispered. "Didn't you?" The DNA results beeped. Marcus read them aloud. 70% grizzly. Emily's breath hitched. 30% unclassified. Not canine, not feline, not primate, not even within known North American wildlife. Emily blinked at the data. "This isn't just a hybrid. It's something nature has never documented." Aurora gave a low growl, quiet but firm. The cub blinked slowly. Its skin twitched. Then again it made that sound. A low hum. Marcus stepped back. "I've never heard anything like that." Emily moved closer. "I have." Once she paused. "In recordings. Deep seismic vocalizations from Arctic sea caves. They didn't know what made them, but they were rhythmic, almost tonal." The creature turned its head slightly and met her gaze again. Its pupils contracted and expanded, not in reaction to light, but like it was adjusting to her. The monitor behind it began to glitch. Static, then a brief pulse, then normal. The creature yawned, not like a cub, but wide, too wide. "Get me a secure incubator," Emily said, "and alert Dr. Chen in genetics. Tell her we may be looking at a new genus." Marcus hesitated. "Should we call the media?" "No," Emily said sharply. "No one outside this room hears about this until we know what we're dealing with." "Why? This is history." "Exactly," she replied. "And history always starts with misunderstanding." She glanced at Aurora. The bear had curled herself around her 5 cubs, but the 6th remained separate. Yet Aurora's eyes tracked it constantly. "I don't think this was an accident," Emily said. "Something happened to her out there, something that changed her biology. She didn't just survive the wild, she came back with a message." Marcus looked uneasy. A message? The wind outside screamed against the windows. Thunder cracked. Emily stared at the creature. This wasn't just birth, it was arrival. Then, for the first time, the cub made a second sound, soft and layered, like multiple notes woven together, and every light in the room flickered. Emily looked down at her hand. The creature had reached out again, this time curling its paw around her fingers, and in that touch she felt something impossible. A pulse of heat, like language, like memory, like knowing, a flash of forest, a cave, a shape in the dark. Emily pulled her hand back, gasping. "It showed me something." Marcus backed away. "Emily, what is it?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But it's not just a cub." She turned to the secule.